Today, I'm at Exbury Gardens in Hampshire, flanked by the River Bewley on one side and the New Forest on the other. Exbury is home to vibrant floral displays in a natural woodland setting, perfect for finding some colour inspiration for your shady borders at home. Leading us on this captivating journey today is none other than head gardener Tom Clarke. So Tom, these glorious gardens on such a beautiful day, can you tell me a little bit about the history of them?
Yeah, so the Exbury Gardens were created in 1919, so just over 100 years ago, by Lionel de Rothschild. He was chairman of Rothschild's banks.
Known for banking and not necessarily plants.
But he was an extremely sort of keen horticulturalist, and he bought Exbury because he wanted to create an elegant woodland garden. You know, that was very much the fashion at the time. The Edwardian period was really the sort of golden age of woodland gardenings, when a lot of these big country houses were busy filling their gardens up with all these fantastic plants that were coming in from China and the Himalayas. The Rhododendron Society was formed, and they used to have big shows where they would all take their flowers, and they also sponsored a lot of the plant hunters, so it'd be who could flower them first and which one would grow well in everyone's garden. So it was a lot of, well, I say friendly competition. I don't know how friendly it was.
You'd probably like to win, I bet.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they did, yeah. It was a big, it was a big part of the sort of horticultural culture at the time.
And within a collection like these, still winning today, because they are now giants, some of them, aren't they?
Well, yes. I mean, a lot of them are well over 100 years old now, so they've become, really quite stately trees. Things like Ivory Scarlet, which we're walking under now. I mean, this is a tree, really.
Yeah. It really is glorious, isn't it? With the sunlight on those bright flowers, but the contrast with the dark leaf as well.
Yeah, they're magnificent, yeah. Rhododendron in Greek means rose tree, and you can see how they get their name, because this one is absolutely plastered in flowers, which is great.
It is, and the white one next to it as well as we walk past.
Yeah, it's great, lovely.
Why do you think Lionel de Rothschild chose rhododendrons?
I mean, it's partly because, they were very fashionable at the time. Also, the pH of the soil here at Exbury is perfectly suited to a lot of these ericaceous plants, so it was a kind of a natural choice, but it was kind of, a gentleman's sort of hobby to breed plants and things like that, and he raised over 1,000 crosses and probably named about 500 of those, so, it was a significant part of the collection was his rhododendrons.
And how many of those are A, here, but B, in general horticulture around the country?
So out of that sort of 500 named plants, about 70 varieties sort of went out into wider horticulture and were commercially available. And you do find them in other big gardens, and all the rest were really just only grown in the gardens here at Exbury. So a lot of the plants we've got here are one-offs.
So a very special collection here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, well, it's unique. Yeah.
So how do you balance that combination of a woodland environment with perhaps a more ornamental, your roses and everything else going on?
Well, that's an interesting question, because, gardens like Exbury, they were designed to be a sort of like a romanticised idea of a woodland, really. The idea was that you would walk down a path like this, and then you come across a nice little glade, and it would be more sort of manicured, and then another area of sort of more naturalised woodland. So it's a really nice combination of the elegant sort of woodland gardening and then the more sort of manicured horticulture.
And what are some of those plants that grow well under the shade of trees?
One of the great things about oak trees, which is our natives tree, and they have really deep root systems, so the azaleas and rhododendrons really enjoy being grown in amongst the trees. They have a canopy, but it's quite high up, which means you get all that lovely sort of diffused light. And they also come into leaf quite late in the spring, which means that you do get quite a lot of light this time of year. Yeah. And then when it's hotter in the summer, they create the shade, so it works really well.
Now, this is the new camellia walk. So when were most of these planted, then?
Yeah, so these were all planted in the 1990s.
Now, they enjoy the same conditions as the rhododendrons, don't they?
That's right, yeah. They're woodland plants, really, so they enjoy the same sort of acidic soil. We've got over 600 in the garden here, different varieties.
Yeah, a lot of them are very large, but can you grow them on a smaller scale?
Yeah, they do really well in containers. We're potting some up in a minute, so you can have a look.
Oh, I'd love to.
People think that camellias are quite high maintenance, but actually there's a couple of very simple sort of golden rules, which if you follow that, then they're really easy to look after and don't really take that much sort of aftercare at all.
Right, so what are those rules then?
Right, so firstly, they're ericaceous plants, which means they're acid loving, so we need to use an ericaceous compost.
Okay, which we've got some down here. A nice free draining compost. So I guess they don't want their roots to be sitting in soil.
No, they don't want to be waterlogged, so they need really good drainage.
This is very handy for drainage, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So the crock, that goes in the bottom of the plant pot over the drainage hole just to stop it getting blocked up. So it makes like a little arch over the hole, basically.
So what next?
OK, then we'll put a load of compost in the bottom of the pot to about halfway up, really.
Right, let's lift this up then. Do you want to do the honours?
Yes, please, yeah.
There we are.
Yeah, so we chuck loads of that in.
And again, so this is soil that acid-loving plants.
That's right, yeah. So it's got lots of organic matter. It's really rich, but it's well drained and it's peat-free as well.
Perfect.
So if we plant the one in front of you there, Coral Delight.
OK, this is the one with the lovely bicolour flowers.
So normally we would just give the root ball a bit of a soak before we pot it on, because they have quite a fibrous, shallow root system. Just getting the roots all wet before they go into the compost just will give them a better chance of sort of transitioning into their new home, really.
Keeping him happy.
Exactly. Yeah, so if we take him out, and because they have fibrous roots, if they are pot bound, it's quite a good idea just to tease them out a little bit. But this one's actually fairly good, so he can go straight in.
There we are.
It needs to be potted up the same height as it was in its old pot, just above where the stem comes out of the ground.
Okay.
So we just want to put the compost all around the roots, and so he's nice and central in the pot.
Lovely.
And then we just fill it up to the top.
Right.
And then once you've got enough compost in, you just need to sort of firm it in a little bit like that. And that really just, you know, keeps it upright and stops him falling over.
Yeah.
Camellias are actually pretty fast growing, so over a couple of years this will put on, you know, several feet of growth if they're
Really?
happy. You only really need to pot it up every couple of years, or if the leaves start to go a little bit yellow and chlorotic looking, and that's really just because it needs a bit of extra nutrients. But just by potting them up every couple of years, you know, they should be pretty much happy like that, really.
And if gardeners follow your tips, then hopefully they should be able to get their own little piece of Exbury at home.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt that spring has sprung here at Exbury, with all the promise of a beautiful plant-filled summer ahead. And for those of you who are still uncertain about what to plant in your shady borders, I hope you've noted some colourful and vibrant plants which will feel right at home.